Greetings and welcome to Marty's Tying Bench. Today I'm putting together kits for our next Vice squad, and the pattern I've chosen is, well, the pattern is a Pat's Rubberlegs, but this variegated color I've chosen kind of is crying out for a good name. This is black and silver. I'm tying it for stonefly season, so I'm either going to call it a zebra stonefly or maybe just a skunk from the looks of it. Anyway, this is what all the guides are tying all winter, because you can never go wrong sticking one of these on early spring, throughout the summer, and even into the fall. This is a good lead fly. It's got a little bit of weight, can make it unnecessary to put split shot on. We're going to weight it. This is .025 lead. And I'm just going to pinch a little bit and hold it and make 14 wraps. And the reason I counted those wraps is if I place this correctly, it'll serve as kind of an index to help me be consistent from the first fly to the 50th. Now, if you got super glue, you're going to take just a touch of it. And this does a great job in holding metal to metal. Slide this forward until it's about an eye and a half width from the eye of the hook to the lead. Now, if you don't have super glue, what you're going to do is you're going to build up a dam right in front of it. And then you're going to take your thumbnail on the back side and hold it in place while you move your thread to the back and build a dam there. Now those dams will keep it from sliding front and back, and then we'll go through it one more time to help keep the lead from spinning on the hook, because we're going to be tying some legs into it. Now this thread is 140 denier UTC. You can use any black thread. If you use some of the other popular colors, tying the other Pat's Rubberlegs, you'll be tying it in black and coffee, combinations of green, which I swear is taken as cranefly larvae. I'm tying this one on a size 6 hook, but you'll want to tie some in smaller sizes for the Thompson and Rocky Mountain National Park. But if you're headed up to the Colorado, this is definitely not too big. You can even tie it a size bigger. Now, for legs, I'm using spandex. This is MFC Sexi Floss. You'll see this as Life Flex, Flexi Floss, lots of different names, but it's all pretty much the same thing. Now, I'm stretching this a little bit so that when my thread comes a little bit down the back, it's going to help those things separate. I'm going to cut that whatever length you like your tails. Now for body material, I've got some variegated chenille, and this is black and silver. Raider Nation colors, sorry. And to kind of mimic the diameter up here where I've got the lead, I'm going to go ahead and use this, or tie this chenille right up against the lead, and then come back. And at this point I would move my thread to the middle and then wrap the chenille, but I've got a rotary vise and don't get many chances to use the rotary feature. So there you go, that was like 9 turns to get right up against the lead. Now I'm ready to tie in some legs. So I made a couple of turns there just to kind of hold that chenille in place. Could have waited and brought the chenille forward, but it's a mess coming through all these legs, so I try and get the easy part when I can. I'm going to set that in until it's a little bit longer than the body. And make a couple of wraps right up against the chenille. And that'll make it stand out. Then I came back forward a couple of turns, What I'm going to do is I'm going to reach over and pull this to my side and pull it down until it's on the mid line of the shank, and stretch it rearward as I tie forward, tie to the back. And now I've got two legs about the same length, and they're not crisscrossed up on the top of the hook, they're tied right down on the midline of that hook shank. Now I'll move my thread forward a little bit and do it again. This time I can take that short piece and kind of estimate the length of the leg and tie it in so that when I reach across and fold the short one forward, see how close that is in length? Yeah, well, if you get good at it, you can tie this thing and not have to trim at the end, but that takes a lot of repetitions. Anyway, I'm going to come up here a little bit farther forward and tie in the third set of legs. Same technique. Now see how those are kind of sweeping back? That's okay. When I come through with the chenille, I'll use the chenille as if it was a thread, and with that tension I'll get those things to stand out. Now there's a little bit of a drop off here from the lead to the front, so I'm going to take a minute and build that in until it's kind of a smooth ramp. You notice I don't worry much about that lead showing through. You don't have to cover all that stuff up. The chenille will do that. Now let's tie in some antenna. And I'm going to get a few turns in front of it. We'll stand it up a little bit. And then cut these to length. Now, the length I like, if you fold it back and cut it about the same length as the body, they'll be consistent. Now I'm ready to bring the chenille forward. This is going to jump in front of the rear set of legs, so I'm going to make this wrap between the rear and the middle legs. And then another one right in front of that. Make sure these turns are right next to each other instead of on top of each other. And now a third. Depending on how far you spread your legs out, you might get 2 wraps in there, it might take 3. If it's taking any more than that, you want to make an adjustment on the next one. Now I'm moving the chenille in front of the middle legs. Again, if everything works out perfectly, you'll have the same number of turns as you had between the rear and the middle. And this time it's pushing those legs forward a little bit. That gives me a nice big footprint. Now I got some tension on the chenille. I'm using it like thread and using the tension to hold those things in place. A couple, 3 turns, then I'm going to fold that chenille back and kind of lock it in that way. Now if you got space in front of your legs, you can tie this whip finish right up against the eye, but usually you can just finish right on top of everything. I'm going to give these legs a tug so that they're spread out away from the eye a little bit. Stroke these legs up. Not going to stretch them. Just going to stroke them up, and if anything is way too long, I'll just trim them until they're close to the same. There we go. Now that head that I tied is on top of some materials, and once it gets wet and stuff, it could come loose, so I definitely like to use some head cement on this one, water base in this case. So there we go. We just tied Pat's Skunk. Tie a bunch of them. You'll use a lot of them this summer.